Hi everybody! Today is Tuesday, April 14th. This is English Language Arts. How are you doing, Mark, Preston, Elijah, Hayden, Michael, Devlin? Hope you guys are doing well. The first thing I want to do today is review your spelling words. You'll be having a test next week, so make sure you look at these and practice them every now and then in the coming week. Climbed, C-L-I-M-B-E-D. Possible, P-O-S-S-I-B-L-E. Strength, S-T-R-E-N-G-T-H. Within, W-I-T-H-I-N. Myself, M-Y-S-E-L-F. Against, A-G-A-I-N-S-T. Height, H-E-I-G-H-T. Bright, B-R-I-G-H-T. Might, M-I-G-H-T. And twilight, T-W-I-L-I-G-H-T. Now, notice that the last four words have this I-G-H-T in them. Okay, we're going to talk about that today. All right. Spelling tip. Some words spell the long I sound with I-G-H, as in the word light. Okay. Most of these words are familiar to you. I'm going to save number 1 and number 8 till the end. Light, right, might, height, bright, sight, fight, and twilight. The underlined words are your spelling words. That's why they're underlined. Okay, now all of these words end in I-G-H-T, right? And they make the long I sound, I. Two of these words also end in I-G-H-T, but they do not make the long I sound. These words are freight and weight. You may remember these words. We talked about them when we talked about the I before E spelling rule. Okay, but these two make the sound 8. Like this is the number 8 if you take the FR off of it. Okay, freight and weight. Okay, there are other exceptions that also have the GH, IGH ending, IGH, IGH. They are neighbor, way, 8, and sleigh. And there are more. But these might be familiar to you because they are some of the ones that we talked about with the I before E rule. What is that rule again? I before E, except after C, and in words that say A, as in neighbor and way. Okay, and we know there are other exceptions to this, but I just wanted to point out to you that freight and weight have the same IGHT ending as all these other words, but they do not make the long I sound. Okay, so just be aware of that. Okay. Let's talk about homonyms. Homonyms are words that are spelled differently, but they sound the same, but they have different meanings. Homo means same, and nym means name. They sound like the same name. There, and there. This there means a place. No, this there is a possessive pronoun. It means that something belongs to them. It is their house. This there is a place, like look over there. And this there is a contraction between the word they and are. They are, like they're at the movie theater. Two, and two. I think you know what these mean. This one means also. It's and its. This its is a pronoun. It's a possessive pronoun, just like this one. If you would say about your dog, you could say, its water bowl is empty. This its is a contraction between the word it and is. It means it is. It's going to rain in a little while. Okay, and then we have you and your, or your and your, excuse me. This your means it is also a possessive pronoun. It means it's your notebook. This one is a contraction between you and are, and it means you are. You're going to the bowling alley tomorrow. Okay, now there are many other homonyms. Here are some other examples. Know and know, read and read, pale and pale, whole and whole, and new and new. Now, in your reading, in your TAN book, there is an example of this word used, and I typed out the paragraph from the TAN book so you can see this. At last the hole was cut, and I could push myself in. Remember, this is the passage from the book The Wheel on the School by Meinert de Jong. This is about the children in Holland that are trying to find a wheel to put on top of their schoolhouse so the storks will come back and roost there. So in this paragraph, remember, it's a quotation. It's a direct quotation because it's the exact words that someone was speaking. But anyway, I wanted to point out the word whole here. If you had put a W in front of this word, W-H-O-L-E, that would make this sentence very strange. At last the whole was cut. The whole what? The whole watermelon was cut? The whole apple was cut? No. If you put a W in front of it, as you see here, that means the entire thing. Okay? This whole is a thing. It's a noun. It's an opening. So please be careful to use the correct homonyms in your writing. Okay? All right. Now I want to read over the literature passage with you, the whole thing again, this time, the whole, W-H-O-L-E thing. And I want to review with you a point of view. We talked about this last week. Let's read the passage again. Now, if you want to follow along with me in your TAN book, you can, or you can just follow along here on the video. At last the hole was cut, and I could push myself in. There was my father right below me, there on the wheel. The wheel was leaning against the side of the boat. With his last strength, my father had climbed to the hub to be as close to me as possible when I sawed, to be within reach. I leaned in, I grabbed him under the arms, I lifted him out. I was small, but I was strong. Okay? Now remember last week when we talked about point of view. Stories and books are written from a certain point of view. Most stories and books are written from either first person point of view, and they use the words I, my, us, me, we, our. These are pronouns. Or they're written from the third person point of view, and they use the pronouns he, him, she, her, they, them. So how do you know again what are first person pronouns and what are third person pronouns? Well, if you write the personal pronouns out, I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they, the ones on the top row are first person because they're talking about you, yourself, me, I, we. The second row is second person, you, and the third row is the third person pronouns, he, she, it, or they. Now the third person point of view is where there is a narrator who is telling the story about him or her, telling about what they did and what happened to them, what he saw or what she saw. That is a third person perspective. Okay? So, as we talked about last week, this paragraph is from the book The Wheel on the School, and it is written in first person. How can you tell? It's because if you look at the pronouns used, I, my, myself, my, me, okay, I've got them in green here. I hope you can see that in the video. My, me, I. Okay, so when you have a paragraph or a story or a book written with these pronouns, it's called first person. Okay, so what if we were to change this paragraph into the third person point of view? This is what it would look like. At last the hole was cut, and he could push himself in. There was his father right below him, there on the wheel. The wheel was leaning against the side of the boat. With his last strength, his father had climbed to the hub to be as close to him as possible while he sawed, to be within reach. He leaned in, he grabbed him under the arms, he lifted him out. He was small, but he was strong. So you can see this is being told from a narrator, someone that's outside the story, that's telling about someone and his father and about what happened on that day when he rescued his father. Okay, so there's first person and there's third person, and you can see the difference. And you can think about which style you like best. Do you like it best written in first person, where it's a little more personal, or do you like the style where it's written in third person, where someone from the outside is looking on and telling the story? All right. So that's point of view. Let's talk about Narnia. The Horse and His Boy. All right. Can we see the map? Okay. Remember, they started out down here at Arshish's house in Calormen. This is the country of Calormen. And Bree and Shasta rode and rode and rode, and then they met Win and Erebus, and they traveled to the city of Tashbaan, which is on this river, in the middle of the river. And they had some adventures getting through the city of Tashbaan, and they told about each adventure. And again, what point of view is this book written in? First person or third person? Well, if you said third person, you're right, because it's a narrator, which is C.S. Lewis, the author, telling about his story and her story and what happened to them. Okay? So it's written with the third person pronouns. So once they got through Tashbaan, now the story is moving out to the desert. This is the desert they have to cross. And Shasta is waiting at the tombs for Erebus and the horses because they got separated. Okay, so let's go over the vocabulary and the questions for chapters 6 and 7. So the first vocabulary word for chapter 6 was ghouls, G-H-O-U-L-S. Ghouls are known as an evil spirit or a phantom, especially associated with grave robbing. And that's why he used that word, is because he was hanging out, so to speak, in the graveyard where the tombs were. Countenance. Countenance is a person's facial expression. If you look at a person, you can often tell, are they happy, are they sad, are they frustrated, are they angry, by their facial expressions. That's their countenance. Furrow is a long, narrow trench made in the ground, often used in planting seeds, or it could be a rut or a groove. And skulk is to basically keep out of sight. Okay. Describe the ancient tombs of the kings. So we get a description of these tombs through Shasta's eyes when he sees them for the first time. And they are described as large, narrow beehives made out of stone. There's 12 of them, and they have low, arched doorways that look black within. So those are the ancient tombs. What did the lion do for Shasta? Okay, so first we see there's a cat, right? The cat surprises him and lays next to him, and then later he sees a lion and hears a lion. He hears other noises, and it turns out to be wild jackals. And what the lion did was to protect him. He roared very loudly, and he caused the jackals to go away. So he protected Shasta from the jackals. He also kept him warm and comforted because he was alone all by himself and not really excited about being there among the tombs. And something to think about, this is the second time we've seen a lion appear in the story. Is this the same lion? We'll find out. Number 3, why did Shasta think that it was a trap when he saw Bree and Win being led out of Tashbaan by a strange, although well-dressed man? Okay, so he's sitting here at the tombs, and here come the two horses without Aravis. And he's wondering what's happened to her. Have they captured her? Have they found out who she was and taken her? And did she tell them about him and that he had run away from Arshish? So he's not sure what's happening, so he skulks. He kind of hides to see what's going to happen. All right. So that's chapter 6. So it leaves you kind of with the cliffhanger, wondering who this guy is that's leading these horses out and what's going to happen with Shasta. Then we go to chapter 7 and we see what's happening in the meantime with Aravis, who is in Tashbaan with her friend Lazareline. All right, let's talk about the vocabulary words. There was baubles. Baubles are pom-poms, small little balls made out of yarn. You can see them, bigger ones you can see on top of maybe a snow beanie cap, or they're used for decorations on certain clothing and hats and things. Talisman is an object that's thought to have magical powers. Some people might call it a good luck charm. And a divan is a low sofa or couch that doesn't have arms and a back, usually pushed up against a wall. All right, what hyperbole did Lazareline use with the slaves? Okay, remember, a hyperbole is an exaggeration that is not really going to be followed through with, like, oh, my dad's going to kill me if he finds out what happened. Obviously, the dad's not going to kill the son, but a hyperbole is an overstatement used for emphasis. Okay, and so what hyperbole did Lazareline use with the slaves? Well, Aravis told her, tell them not to mention me, because she doesn't want to be found out, right? So Lazareline says, oh, okay. She says, if you guys tell anybody about this girl, Aravis, you will be beaten to death, and then you will be burned alive, and then you'll only have bread and water to eat for weeks. So obviously, if they're beaten to death, they can't be burned alive because they're already dead. And if they're burned alive, they can't eat anything because they're burned and they're dead that way too. So obviously she was way overstating her threat to get her point across to her slaves. That's hyperbole. All right, what things did you see that were important to Lazareline? Okay, she lives near the palace, but often visits the palace and associates with all of these people. So things like parties and dresses and weddings and gossip and scandals, those are all things that interest her and she thinks are fun and exciting. All right, describe Ahashta Tarkin. Now remember, Ahashta is the man that Aravis was supposed to marry. Her father had arranged a marriage to this man who was old enough to be her father. And so we meet him for the first time in Tashbaan, where Aravis and Lazareline are hiding so they won't be discovered. And they overhear their conversation. But Ahashta Tarkin is described by Lazareline as being one of the greatest men in Calormen, that everyone is crazy about him. She doesn't understand why Aravis doesn't want to marry him. But then, when he comes in the room with the Tisroc and the Tisroc's son, he's very subservient, and he's bowed his face to the ground, and almost like he's groveling before the Tisroc. And he's described as a little, humpbacked, wizened old man. So you can kind of get an idea of maybe why Aravis was not interested in marrying him. All right. Okay, so that's it for today. You can find your homework and that link to, no, not a link, I'm sorry. You can find your homework, though, on the website, and we will be back the next time with another video. Hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.